Welcome to Thought Grid. For decades, the name Annabelle has sent shivers down spines, synonymous with a malevolent presence contained within a seemingly innocent doll. Her story, popularized by films and documentaries, has become a cornerstone of modern paranormal lore. But beyond the Hollywood dramatizations and the sensationalized headlines lies a chilling truth. Annabelle is not just a character. She is a real object, housed in a museum, and her history is steeped in disturbing incidents that defy rational explanation. These aren't just tales of a haunted toy. These are accounts from individuals whose lives were irrevocably touched by the doll's dark influence, stories of subtle manipulations, terrifying manifestations, and a pervasive sense of dread that proves some evils are not easily contained. They are real, and they happened because of a doll. Story 1. The Student's Obsession. This first story comes from a case documented by Ed and Lorraine Warren, the renowned paranormal investigators, involving a young nursing student named Donna and her roommate, Angie, in the early 1970s. Donna had received the Raggedy Ann doll as a birthday gift from her mother. Initially, it was just a charming, innocent-looking toy, placed on her bed as a decorative item, but its innocence would soon unravel. Within weeks, strange occurrences began. The doll would subtly change positions. Donna and Angie would leave for class, placing Annabelle on the bed, only to return and find her sitting in a chair or even standing upright, propped against a wall. It was unsettling, but they initially dismissed it as a prank, perhaps by a friend or even their own forgetfulness. They even tried to test it, carefully placing the doll in specific positions and marking them, only to find her moved again upon their return. The feeling of being watched, even when alone in the apartment, became a constant, low hum of unease. They started to leave lights on, even during the day, trying to dispel the growing shadows that seemed to cling to the doll. The movements escalated. Annabelle started appearing in different rooms of the apartment. They would find her on the couch in the living room or even at the dining table, as if she had walked there herself. The doors and windows were always locked, and there was no sign of forced entry. The fear began to set in, a cold dread that permeated their small apartment. They were no longer alone. The air in the apartment often felt heavy, thick with an unseen presence, and a faint, cloying scent, like old roses mixed with something metallic, would occasionally waft through the rooms, only to vanish as quickly as it appeared. Then came the notes. Small pieces of parchment paper found around the apartment, with messages scrawled in what looked like a child's handwriting. Messages like, "Help us," or "You miss me." The notes were always found near the doll, or in places where the doll had recently been discovered. The paper was old, almost like parchment, and neither Donna nor Angie owned anything like it. The messages were a direct plea, a chilling confirmation that something was indeed trying to communicate. The handwriting itself was unsettling, uneven, and shaky, as if written by a hand that wasn't quite human. They tried to dispose of the notes, burning them, tearing them, but new ones would appear, sometimes in places they had just checked, as if mocking their attempts to resist. One evening, Donna was studying late in her bedroom. The doll was on her bed, facing the wall. She felt a sudden, intense cold spot in the room, and the faint scent of old roses filled the air. She looked up and saw the doll. It was slowly, almost imperceptibly, turning its head. Its button eyes, usually fixed and lifeless, seemed to bore into her, a profound malevolence emanating from them. She couldn't move, paralyzed by a terror she had never known. The doll's head continued to turn until it was facing her directly, its painted smile seeming to widen into a grotesque grin. A low, guttural growl, too deep for any human, emanated from the doll, filling the silent room. Donna screamed, a raw, primal sound, and scrambled out of the room, leaving the doll behind. The climax of this initial haunting involved a friend of Donna and Angie's, a young man named Lou, who was skeptical of the paranormal. He openly mocked the doll, challenging it, telling Donna and Angie that it was all in their heads. One evening, while visiting the apartment, Lou was alone in the living room when he heard strange rustling sounds coming from Donna's bedroom. He went to investigate, and as he entered the room, he was immediately overcome by a profound sense of dread, a feeling of being watched. The air grew heavy, and the scent of old roses was overwhelming. He then felt a sharp, burning pain on his chest. He looked down and saw 7 distinct claw marks, 3 vertical and 4 horizontal, as if a large, unseen hand had raked across his skin. The marks were deep, bleeding, and incredibly painful, burning as if acid had been poured on his flesh. He screamed, a sound of pure agony and terror, and collapsed to the floor, clutching his chest. Terrified, Donna and Angie finally contacted a medium who informed them that the doll was not possessed by a human spirit, but by an inhuman entity, a demonic presence that was manipulating the doll to gain access to Donna's soul. The medium advised them to seek professional help. They then contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens, after investigating the apartment and the doll, confirmed the demonic presence. They performed an exorcism on the apartment and took the doll with them, sealing it in a specially constructed glass case, which remains in their occult museum to this day. Lou's claw marks healed, but the psychological scars remained. He suffered from recurring nightmares, always of the doll, its button eyes burning into his soul. Donna and Angie never returned to that apartment, forever haunted by the innocent-looking doll that had brought such terror into their lives. The Annabelle doll, now contained, continues to be a source of fascination and fear, a stark reminder of the thin veil between our world and the unseen forces that lurk within it. The apartment itself remained vacant for years, no one willing to live in a place where such malevolence had taken root. Even the building's owner, a hardened landlord, refused to set foot inside, claiming he could still feel the cold spots and hear the faint whispers emanating from the empty rooms. The doll, in its glass prison, remains a silent testament to the horrors it inflicted, its story a chilling warning to those who dare to doubt the existence of true evil. Story 2. The Seminarian's Encounter. This second chilling account also comes from the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren, detailing an incident that occurred shortly after the Annabelle doll was brought to their occult museum. The Warrens, fully aware of the doll's malevolent nature, had taken every precaution to contain it, placing it in a specially blessed glass case and performing regular blessings on the museum itself. Yet, even within the confines of their protected space, Annabelle's influence continued to manifest, targeting those who dared to challenge her power. The incident involved a young seminarian, a student preparing for the priesthood who visited the Warrens' museum. He was a devout man, but also a skeptic, curious about the paranormal but convinced that such phenomena could be explained by natural means or psychological suggestion. He openly scoffed at the Annabelle doll, dismissing it as a mere toy, a prop used to frighten the gullible. He even dared to tap on the glass case, challenging the doll to do something, anything, to prove its supposed power. Lorraine Warren, witnessing his disrespectful behavior, immediately warned him, telling him that he was inviting trouble, that the entity attached to the doll did not take kindly to mockery. Her words, though calm, carried an undeniable weight, a subtle warning that seemed to hang in the air around the doll's case. The seminarian, however, just laughed, confident in his own beliefs. He left the museum shortly after, seemingly unaffected by his encounter. He continued his journey, driving his motorcycle down the highway, his mind still on the doll, perhaps even a little proud of his defiance. He felt a surge of adrenaline, a thrill of having challenged the unknown and emerged unscathed. But his confidence would soon be shattered, replaced by a terror that would haunt him for the rest of his days. About 3 hours after leaving the museum, as he was driving down a long, winding road, the seminarian suddenly lost control of his motorcycle. It was a clear day, the road was dry, and there was no apparent reason for the accident. He swerved violently, the motorcycle skidding across the asphalt, throwing him off. He landed hard, tumbling across the road, his body scraping against the rough pavement. He lay there for a moment, stunned, his body aching, but miraculously, he was alive. He had sustained serious injuries, including multiple broken bones, a concussion, and severe lacerations, but he was alive. The air was filled with the smell of burning rubber and gasoline, a stark contrast to the peaceful scent of pine trees that had filled the air just moments before. As he lay there, dazed and in pain, he looked up, and there, in his mind's eye, he saw it. The Annabelle doll. Not physically present, but a vivid, terrifying image, its painted smile seeming to widen, its button eyes fixed on him with a chilling, malevolent glee. He heard a faint, almost imperceptible giggle echoing in his mind, a sound that sent shivers down his spine, despite the pain. It was a sound he would never forget, a sound that would haunt his nightmares for years to come. The giggle was high-pitched, childlike, yet filled with an ancient, predatory malice that made his blood run cold. He tried to scream, but his voice was hoarse, choked by the pain and the overwhelming terror. He was eventually found by a passing motorist and rushed to the hospital. During his recovery, he recounted his experience to the Warrens, his skepticism replaced by a profound and terrifying belief. He admitted his arrogance, his disrespect towards the doll, and his challenge. He was convinced that the accident was not a coincidence, but a direct consequence of his actions, a manifestation of Annabelle's malevolent power. He believed that the doll or the entity attached to it had followed him, had caused his accident, and had shown him a glimpse of its true nature. His once vibrant eyes were now haunted, filled with a deep-seated fear that no amount of medical care could alleviate. He spoke in a low, monotone voice, his words punctuated by long, trembling pauses, as if reliving the horror with every syllable. The Warrens, having dealt with countless similar incidents, were not surprised. They believed that the seminarian's mockery had indeed provoked the entity, and that the accident was a direct result of its retaliation. They emphasized that such entities feed on negative energy, on fear, and on disrespect. The seminarian, now a changed man, abandoned his plans for the priesthood, his faith shaken by the undeniable reality of the evil he had encountered. He spent the rest of his life advocating for caution and respect when dealing with the paranormal, a living testament to the terrifying power of the Annabelle doll. He became a recluse, his once outgoing personality replaced by a quiet, anxious demeanor. He would often stare blankly into space, his mind replaying the image of the doll's malevolent grin, the sound of its chilling giggle echoing in his ears. He lived in constant fear, convinced that the entity was still out there, waiting, watching, ready to strike again. This incident serves as a stark warning. The Annabelle doll is not a toy to be trifled with. Her innocent appearance belies a dark and dangerous reality, a reality that can reach out and touch those who dare to challenge it, even from behind the protective glass of a museum case. The scars on the seminarian's body were a physical reminder of his encounter, but the scars on his soul were far deeper, a chilling testament to the enduring malevolence of the Annabelle doll. His story became a cautionary tale within the Warrens' museum, a silent warning to visitors who might be tempted to scoff at the seemingly harmless doll. The doll, in its glass prison, remains a silent, watchful presence, its power undiminished, its malevolence patiently waiting for the next opportunity to manifest. Story 3. The Collector's Curse. This final, deeply unsettling account comes from a private collector of occult artifacts, a man named Mr. Blackwood, who, in the late 1980s, acquired what he believed to be a replica of the Annabelle doll. He was a scholar of the arcane, a man who prided himself on his knowledge of dark arts and his ability to safely house dangerous objects. He dismissed the Warrens' claims as sensationalism, believing the doll's power was exaggerated, a mere psychological trick. His arrogance would prove to be his undoing. Mr. Blackwood's replica was a meticulously crafted doll designed to look exactly like the original Raggedy Ann. He placed it in a prominent display case in his private study, alongside other curious and supposedly cursed items. He would often lecture to small groups of enthusiasts, proudly showcasing his collection and always making a point to mock the Annabelle replica, daring it to perform any of its alleged feats. For months, nothing happened. He grew more confident, more dismissive of the doll's reputation, often chuckling at the credulity of those who believed in such superstitions. He even started leaving the display case unlocked, just to prove a point. A subtle act of defiance against the unseen. Then, subtle changes began. Mr. Blackwood, a man of precise habits, started finding small objects in his study moved. A book would be opened to a different page than he remembered. A pen would be placed on the wrong side of his desk. He attributed it to his housekeeper, or perhaps his own absent-mindedness, but the occurrences grew more frequent, more deliberate. His meticulously organized collection would be subtly rearranged, items shifted by mere inches, just enough to be noticed, just enough to cause a flicker of doubt. The air in the study would occasionally grow heavy, thick with an unseen presence, and a faint, cloying scent, like stale dust and something vaguely metallic, would waft through the room, only to vanish as quickly as it appeared. He started to feel a constant, low hum of unease, a feeling of being watched even when he was alone. He installed hidden cameras in his study, determined to catch the culprit. The footage, however, revealed nothing. The objects would move, seemingly on their own, with no visible force acting upon them. The doll, however, remained motionless in its case, its button eyes staring blankly ahead. Mr. Blackwood's skepticism began to waver, replaced by a growing sense of unease. He started spending more time in his study, watching the doll, waiting for something to happen. He would sit for hours, his eyes fixed on the doll, his mind racing, trying to find a logical explanation for the inexplicable. The silence of the study, once comforting, now felt oppressive, filled with an unspoken tension. The climax of his ordeal began one night when he was alone in his study, reviewing his notes. He heard a faint scratching sound coming from inside the display case. He looked up, his eyes fixed on the Annabelle replica. The scratching continued, slow and rhythmic, like fingernails dragging across glass. He leaned closer, his heart pounding. The sound seemed to be coming from inside the doll itself. He tried to open the case, but the lock, which he had secured himself, was jammed. He pulled, he twisted, he even tried to force it open with a letter opener, but it remained stubbornly shut, as if held by an unseen force. The scratching intensified, becoming more frantic, more desperate. And then he heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper emanating from the doll. It wasn't words, not exactly. More like a low, guttural murmur, a sound of profound suffering and malevolence. He pressed his ear against the glass, straining to hear. The whispering grew louder, and he started to distinguish individual sounds, fragmented syllables that seemed to swirl around him, pressing in from the confines of the study. It felt like he was trapped in a small, enclosed space with something ancient and evil, its breath hot on his neck, its unseen presence suffocating him. The air grew icy cold, and he could see his breath in the frigid air, despite the warmth of the room. Suddenly, the glass case shattered, not with a violent explosion, but with a soft, almost gentle crack, as if the glass had simply dissolved into thin air. The doll remained motionless, but the scratching and whispering ceased. Mr. Blackwood stumbled backward, his mind reeling. He stared at the doll, now exposed, its button eyes seeming to glow with an inner light, a malevolent intelligence burning within them. He felt a cold presence enter the room, a suffocating weight that pressed down on him, stealing his breath. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips. He was paralyzed by fear, forced to watch as the doll slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to change. Its fabric skin seemed to ripple, its button eyes to deepen, its painted smile to widen into a grotesque, predatory grin. The room grew colder, the shadows lengthening, twisting into monstrous shapes that danced on the walls, mocking his terror. Mr. Blackwood felt his sanity slipping, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. He could feel unseen hands touching him, cold and clammy, pulling at his clothes, whispering his name in a chorus of disembodied voices. He was found the next morning by his housekeeper, slumped in his chair, his eyes wide with terror, his body cold. There were no visible marks on him, no signs of struggle. The display case was shattered, and the Annabelle replica was gone. The police ruled it a heart attack, brought on by natural causes. But the housekeeper, who had known Mr. Blackwood for years, knew better. She had seen the fear in his eyes, a fear that transcended any physical ailment, a fear that spoke of something truly unspeakable. She also reported a lingering scent of old roses and something metallic in the study, a smell that made her stomach churn. The Annabelle replica was never found. Mr. Blackwood's collection was eventually dispersed, his study sealed off. The incident remains an unsolved mystery, a chilling testament to the dangers of underestimating the power of the unknown. It serves as a grim reminder that some objects, even replicas, carry a darkness that can consume those who dare to challenge it, a curse that lingers long after the object itself has vanished. The Annabelle doll, whether original or copy, continues to be a harbinger of dread, a silent, malevolent force that proves some horrors are not just stories, but a terrifying reality. The house itself remained empty for years, no one willing to purchase a property where such an unsettling event had occurred. Passers-by would often report seeing faint lights flickering in the study window at night, or hearing faint, childlike giggles echoing from within the empty house, a chilling reminder of the collector's curse. These three accounts, drawn from the documented cases of the Annabelle doll, serve as a chilling reminder of the thin veil between our world and the unseen forces that lurk beyond our understanding. Each story, unique in its manifestation, shares a common thread, the profound and lasting impact of encountering true evil. The doll, whether original or replica, whether contained or free, continues to exert its malevolent influence, reaching across time and space to touch the lives of those who dare to challenge it. The nursing students, Donna and Angie, learned that some gifts come with a price far greater than their value. Their innocent acceptance of a birthday present led them into a nightmare that forever changed their perception of reality. The seminarian discovered that faith alone is not always enough to protect against the forces of darkness, and that arrogance in the face of the unknown can have devastating consequences. Mr. Blackwood, the collector, paid the ultimate price for his hubris, his life claimed by the very evil he sought to mock and control. These stories are not mere entertainment. They are warnings. They remind us that the world is far stranger and more dangerous than we often care to admit. They teach us that some objects, some places, and some entities are best left undisturbed. The Annabelle doll, in its glass prison at the Warrens' Occult Museum, remains a silent testament to these truths. It serves as a beacon of caution for those who would venture into the realm of the paranormal, a reminder that some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed. The doll's story continues to evolve, with new accounts and incidents reported regularly. Visitors to the museum often report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread when in the presence of the doll, a cold spot that seems to emanate from the case itself. Some have reported seeing the doll's eyes follow them as they move around the room, or hearing faint whispers that seem to come from within the glass enclosure. The museum staff, well aware of the doll's reputation, treat it with the utmost respect and caution, never allowing visitors to touch the case or to mock the doll in any way. The legacy of the Annabelle doll extends far beyond the confines of the museum. It has become a symbol of the paranormal, a representation of the unknown forces that exist just beyond our perception. It reminds us that the world is full of mysteries, some beautiful, some terrifying, and that our understanding of reality is far more limited than we often believe. The doll's story serves as a bridge between the rationale and the irrational, the known and the unknown, the safe and the dangerous. In the end, the Annabelle doll is more than just a haunted object. It is a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears and our most profound questions about the nature of existence. It challenges us to confront the possibility that there are forces in this world that operate beyond our understanding. Forces that can touch our lives in ways we never imagined. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, the story of the Annabelle doll serves as a powerful reminder that some things are best approached with caution, respect, and a healthy dose of fear. For in the realm of the unknown, it is often our fear that keeps us safe and our arrogance that leads us into danger. Even today, the legend of Annabelle continues to grow, fueled by new reports and the enduring fascination with the unexplained. The Warrens Occult Museum, where the doll resides, remains a popular destination for those seeking a glimpse into the darker side of reality. Visitors often describe a palpable sense of unease in the doll's presence, a feeling of being watched or a sudden drop in temperature. Some have even reported experiencing nightmares or unsettling occurrences after returning home from their visit, suggesting that the doll's influence extends far beyond the confines of its glass prison. The museum staff are vigilant, constantly monitoring the doll and its surroundings, ensuring that no one attempts to provoke the entity or to tamper with its containment. They understand that while the doll may appear harmless, its history is a testament to a malevolent power that demands respect and a constant reminder that some evils, once awakened, can never truly be put to rest. The story of Annabelle is a timeless one, a chilling narrative that continues to resonate with audiences, because it taps into our primal fears of the unknown, the unseen, and the insidious nature of evil that can hide in plain sight.